There are people who walk into your life with radiant smiles and sweet promises. They make you believe you are the center of their universe, that the love they offer is unconditional. But slowly, through the smallest cracks, you begin to see the truth. This isn't love, it's control. It's a power play wrapped in a seductive disguise. Narcissists, they walk among us with confidence and pride, as if nothing in this world could ever hurt them. They make you believe they are invincible. But do you know what really haunts them? What keeps even these seemingly unshakable individuals awake at night? They'll never tell you. They hide it behind fake laughter, behind a cold, indifferent mask. But beneath it all, there are 5 things a narcissist can never escape. 5 things that will haunt them forever. No matter how strong they pretend to be, no matter how hard they try to convince themselves they've forgotten you, those wounds remain, quietly gnawing at them from the inside out. And today we're going to expose those truths. Not for revenge, but to reclaim your power. Because when you understand what truly hurts them, you'll realize you were never weak. You survived the storms they created. And the truth is, you are the one they fear the most. So stay with me until the end of this video. What you're about to discover might just change how you see yourself and them. And if you believe this content could help others on their healing journey, hit subscribe, tap like, and let's spread this light even further. Now let's begin the 5 things that haunt a narcissist forever and why they give you the power to take back your life. If you've ever encountered a narcissist, you know they're unlike anyone else. They enter your life like a storm, sometimes as sweet as honey, sometimes as cold as steel. They make you feel special, chosen, and then slowly they begin to erode who you are. But there's one thing they keep hidden, even from themselves: their fear and emptiness. A narcissist isn't truly strong, no matter how much they want you to believe they are. They are fractured souls hiding their deepest wounds beneath a flawless mask. They build a fortress of pride, wearing the armor of invincibility, but inside there's a panicked child, terrified of being seen, terrified of being hurt. So why do they need to construct that mask? Because beneath all their self-aggrandizement, narcissists are filled with insecurities. They don't believe in their own inherent worth. They don't know how to love themselves in a healthy way. Instead, they depend on admiration, control, and power over others to feel like they matter. They survive on what psychologists call narcissistic supply, the constant flow of admiration, attention, and submission. It's like the lifeblood feeding their distorted ego. Without it, they collapse. So every move they make, from the initial charm to the subtle manipulations, is all about maintaining that supply. They need your praise, your obedience, your presence, even if staying destroys you. But here's the paradox. While they crave love and validation, they never truly believe they deserve it. That's why they sabotage even their most meaningful relationships. Deep down, they fear that if someone ever truly saw who they are beneath the mask, they would be abandoned. So, instead, they destroy everything before you ever get the chance to leave. The inner world of a narcissist is an endless battle between grandiose illusion and profound insecurity. They must keep that mask intact at all costs, because if it cracks, they're faced with their greatest fear, the truth of who they really are. And here's the critical point. No matter how hard they try, there are 5 things that will fracture that mask. 5 things they can never forget, never move past. This is where we're headed next. The 5 eternal hauntings of a narcissist. And when you understand them, you won't just understand the narcissist. You'll recognize your own true power. So let's continue. In the next section, we'll uncover the first thing a narcissist can never overcome. And it just might be something you've already done or are about to do. 1. Being exposed in front of others. Imagine this. You're standing before a magnificent, towering castle. The walls are high, the gates impenetrable. Everything about it makes you believe it's an unbreakable fortress. But as you draw closer, you realize those towering walls are nothing more than cardboard. A light breeze could bring the entire structure crashing down. That is the narcissist. They build a grand image of themselves, powerful, alluring, untouchable, but it's all an illusion, and when someone, maybe you, pulls back the curtain and reveals the truth, they crumble from within. Being exposed is the narcissist's worst nightmare. You see, they define themselves through the eyes of others. They need you to believe the story they tell about themselves, that they are perfect, the victim, the hero, the winner. And when you reveal the truth, you don't just break that story, you shatter their entire worldview. What happens next? Rage, revenge, smearing, manipulation. They'll do whatever it takes to reclaim control, to rebuild that cardboard castle. But here's the truth they'll never admit. They never forget that moment. They might pretend not to care, they might mock you, they might tell the world you're the crazy one, but when night falls and no one's watching, that memory returns. It gnaws at them, reminding them that someone saw who they really are. Not the hero, not the victim, but a fractured false facade. Why does this haunt them forever? Because narcissists cannot face the truth. They don't have the psychological framework to process shame or admit fault. Instead of learning to repair themselves, they choose to bury it. They build taller, thicker walls. But the cracks remain because you saw them. Maybe you've seen them come back, trying to manipulate you again, trying to silence you or make you doubt yourself. That's gaslighting, a desperate attempt to erase the memory of the moment you stood tall and said, "I see you for who you truly are." But no matter how hard they try, they can't erase that memory from their own mind. And here's what you need to remember. They will never forgive you for seeing the truth. But you don't need their forgiveness, because the moment you exposed them was the moment you took back your power. It was the moment you saw your own worth and stepped out of the maze they created. They may rage, retaliate, or smear your name, but deep down they know you are the one who dared to see their true self and walk away, and that will haunt them forever. So keep walking forward, because the truth is the greatest weapon you hold. And in the next part, we'll uncover the second thing a narcissist can never overcome, losing control over you. 2. Losing control over you. Control, that is the lifeblood of a narcissist. Without it, they are hollow inside. But the kind of control I'm talking about isn't about managing a business or overseeing finances. It runs deeper, more insidious. It's the power to manipulate your emotions, your thoughts, your actions. It's the way they turn you into an extension of themselves, making you live for them, because of them, and through them. From the very beginning, they plant seeds of doubt in your mind, making you turn back to them with questions like, "Am I right?" or "Is this okay?" Little by little, without even realizing it, you hand them the keys to your soul. And once they have those keys, they turn them at will, opening the door when they want you happy, slamming it shut when they want you in pain. But then one day, maybe after countless sleepless nights, after apologizing for things you never did wrong, you wake up. You start asking yourself the hard questions. Why do I always feel like I'm the problem? Why do they always make me doubt myself? And as the answers start to emerge, you snatch back the keys. You begin making your own decisions, setting boundaries, standing up for yourself. That's when the ground beneath the narcissist begins to shake, because this isn't just a small act of rebellion. For them, it's the collapse of an entire empire. They've grown accustomed to pulling your strings like a puppet, and now the strings are cut. They can no longer guilt-trip you, no longer sway your choices with a furrowed brow, or manipulate you into submission with their cold silence. They lose their power, and a narcissist doesn't know how to survive without power. Losing control over you is like being cut off from the oxygen that sustains their ego. They start to panic. You'll see them escalate their manipulations, from begging and promising to change to threatening and attacking, all desperate attempts to regain control. They might use emotions, responsibilities, even finances to rope you back in, because their power over you is how they affirm their own existence. When you step outside that circle of control, you don't just reclaim your life, you shatter a part of their identity. Why does this haunt them forever? Because for a narcissist, losing control over you means losing themselves. Without you there to reflect back the image they want to see, they're left facing the void, the unadorned truth of who they really are. And that's something they simply cannot bear. Sure, they may find someone else to control, but no one will be like you. No one ever gave them so much power as you once did, and no one ever took it back as powerfully as you did. And because of that, you become their most haunting memory. The one who once submitted, but dared to rise. Here's the vital lesson. Your strength doesn't come from fighting them. It comes from walking away, holding your boundaries, and refusing to let them touch you again. That's how you break the chains and leave them drowning in their own panic. And when they see you free, happy, thriving without them, it tightens around their ego like a noose that never loosens. Let that empower you. And in the next section, we'll uncover the third thing a narcissist can never get over: losing the supply of admiration they once took from you. 3. Losing the supply of admiration from you. There's one thing narcissists always try to hide, even from themselves. It's the never-ending hunger, the insatiable thirst for admiration. They survive on praise, on wide-eyed wonder, on the unconditional validation they extract from others. It's the fuel that keeps their inflated ego burning bright, but they can't generate it on their own. They need someone outside themselves, someone willing to shine the light they crave, to sustain the image they've worked so hard to construct. And for a long time, that someone was you. At first, you probably didn't even notice. You loved them, cared for them, and naturally wanted to encourage and uplift. You praised them when they succeeded, comforted them when they stumbled, and were always there when they needed a shoulder to lean on. But to a narcissist, those gestures aren't just affection. They're life support. They soak up every ounce of your attention, every word of admiration you offer, like a parched soul in a desert. And no matter how much you gave, it was never enough. Your admiration became their addiction. They needed it daily, hourly. But then, one day, something shifted. You began to realize you felt yourself giving too much and getting nothing in return. You grew tired of constantly lifting them up, of always being the one to brighten their world while the light inside you slowly dimmed, and then, you pulled back. Maybe not all at once, but little by little. You stopped overpraising, you began to focus more on yourself. You started asking the questions you were once too afraid to voice. For you, this was awakening, but for them, it was disaster. Losing your supply of admiration sends the narcissist into crisis. Because no one else ever saw them like you did, no one ever gave them such deep, unwavering validation the way you did. No matter how hard they try to replace you with new relationships, new friends, even crowds on social media, they can't fill that void. You were unique, and they know it. When they no longer receive that light from you, they're left in the darkness of their own making. They might pretend they've forgotten you, that you meant nothing, but the truth is, they're still watching from afar. They ask mutual friends about you. They snoop to see how you're doing, whether you're happy. They might even try to provoke you just to get a reaction, even a negative one, as long as you're still paying attention to them, because your silence is their greatest torment. And here's the truth you need to know. You are not responsible for feeding anyone's ego. Your admiration is a gift, and you have the right to give it to those who appreciate and reciprocate it in a healthy way. Pulling back your supply of admiration isn't cruelty, it's profound self-love. It's how you protect your own light from being drained. They will forever crave the feeling you once gave them, but they will never find it again, and that is what haunts them for life. You, on the other hand, deserve to be free, to move forward, to seek relationships where you aren't someone's supply, but someone who is loved, valued, and cherished. If what I've shared today has stirred something within you, if you've realized you've given too much to a narcissist, take a moment for yourself. Pause. Breathe. love yourself deeply, and don't forget to hit subscribe so we can continue this journey together, reclaiming your power, healing, and living free. There's so much more to uncover, and I want you here for you. 4. They cannot comprehend why you no longer acknowledge their greatness. There is something that seems irrational yet cuts a narcissist deeper than almost anything else: your refusal to acknowledge their greatness. In their distorted inner world, they are always the central figure, the perfect mother, the exceptional partner, the unmatched leader. They've built up an image of themselves so grand, so admirable, and they believe in it completely. So when you refuse to play along in their production, when you step away from the role of their devoted audience, it's not just a minor disappointment. To them, it's the ultimate insult. They simply cannot understand why you no longer see them as extraordinary. In their mind, there are only two possibilities: you either worship them or you're their enemy. There's no grey area, no empathy, no mutual understanding. To them, if you aren't validating their greatness, you must be opposing them. And that shatters their reality, sending them spiraling into a storm of rage mixed with despair. They might ask you, either directly or indirectly, "Why don't you admire me like you used to?" Or, "Don't you see I've done everything for you?" But behind these questions isn't a true desire to understand you. No, it's a desperate attempt to pull you back into the role you once played, the one who confirmed their worth. And when you refuse, when you stand firm and say they aren't perfect, that they can be wrong, that they can cause harm, they crumble inside. They start searching for reasons to explain what, in their mind, is inexplicable. How could you, someone who once adored them, who once loved them, dare to stop recognizing their brilliance? They will blame you. You're selfish, you're ungrateful, you don't appreciate all they've done. They might even fabricate stories, spinning narratives to convince others and themselves that you are the one with the problem, because in their mind, they can't be flawed, they can't fall short. If you no longer acknowledge their greatness, then surely something must be wrong with you. But no matter how they justify or rationalize, the truth remains. Your rejection shatters the illusion they've built their entire life around. They might pretend they don't care, but inside they writhe in torment. The question, "Why can't they see how amazing I am?" loops in their mind like a broken record that never stops playing. And here's the deepest truth: a narcissist cannot bear to be seen as ordinary. They fear the idea of being just another person, sometimes right, sometimes wrong, with strengths and flaws alike. They fear being truly seen, because if you no longer acknowledge their greatness, that means they're just human, no longer special, no longer untouchable. And that's something they can never accept. So they carry that resentment, that grudge, and they cannot let it go. They stew in their minds, scheming to prove you wrong, through success, through showing off what they have, through pulling others into their game. But no matter what they achieve, that crack remains, and you are the one who left that mark. And here's the lesson you need to hold close. You do not owe anyone the validation of their greatness. You have the right to see people as they truly are, with their strengths, their flaws, and the truth in between. Refusing to play along in their illusion is how you stand firm in your own value. It's how you live authentically. If you've ever been forced to admire someone, pressured into distorting your perception just to praise what wasn't worthy, remember that your awakening is what haunts them forever. They can't understand it, they'll never accept it, but you can move forward, free and unshaken. 5. They can never replace you. In the narcissist's mind, you're just one of many sources of supply. They want you to believe you're replaceable, that if you walk away, they can easily find someone else to take your place. They want you to think you're just another link in the endless chain of people who come and go in their life. But the truth they'll never admit, not even to themselves, is that you are irreplaceable. Sure, they'll try. When you leave, they'll scramble to secure a new source. They may jump straight into another relationship, flaunt a picture-perfect life, showcase their happiness, success, and joy, all to convince you and themselves that they're just fine. But deep down, they know the truth. No one is like you. No one ever fed their ego the way you did. No one ever understood them, cared for them, shined light on them the way you once did, because, whether you knew it or not, the bond between you and them was something unique. It wasn't healthy, but it was real. You were once the mirror that reflected back their perfect image. You gave them attention, affection, and loyalty in ways they couldn't find anywhere else. When you severed that connection, they didn't just lose a person, they lost a piece of their identity, and what haunts them forever is your uniqueness. They search for you in others, but no matter how hard they try, that feeling never returns. No one else can activate their ego the way you once did. No one else can meet their twisted expectations like you once strained yourself to do. That disappointment eats away at them. They begin to compare the new people in their life to you, even if they never speak it out loud. They may act indifferent, but in their minds, they circle back to that question, why can't anyone replace them? And that question haunts them, torments them, traps them. They might try to replicate your relationship with someone new, use the same tactics, repeat the same patterns, but it never works like it did before. And this strikes at their deepest weakness, their uselessness without control, without someone willing to give what you once gave. You become the shadow they can never outrun, a memory that is both pride and pain, because you once submitted, once gave, but then you rose, you stood up, and you walked away. And nothing destroys a narcissist's ego more than that. And here's the profound truth I want you to hold close. You are unique, you are irreplaceable. Your freedom, your strength, your awakening, and your willingness to let go, that is the legacy you leave in their life, no matter how much they deny it. They may rush into someone else's arms, they may parade around a new relationship, but the void you left will never be filled, and that is what haunts them forever. So, if you're walking the path of healing, if you've ever wondered whether you mattered in their life, remember this, you left an indelible mark, not because you loved them, but because you dared to leave. Now that we've walked through the 5 things that will forever haunt a narcissist, I want you to pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and reflect on yourself. You were once caught in their whirlwind, made to doubt your worth, forced to fight for the scattered pieces of your own heart, but you were also the one who dared to face the truth, who dared to let go of a beautiful illusion that was, in reality, toxic. And maybe you've never realized it, but you are their most haunting, beautiful memory, not because of hatred, not because you gave too much, but because you stood up, you walked away, and you dared to say, I deserve more than this. In the narcissist's distorted inner world, they want you to believe they hold the power, that you need them, that you are the problem. But your departure, your calm withdrawal, with no need for revenge, no need to prove anything, shattered everything they believed to be true. You didn't have to scream. You didn't have to look back. All it took was silence, strength, and the quiet act of living better every day. That alone shakes their world. They might pretend they're fine, parade new happy images, but late at night, when no one is watching, they return to the memory of you, the one who once gave, who once stayed, but who finally chose themselves, and that is the crack in their ego that will never fully heal. They may tell others that you were the problem, that you were wrong, selfish even, but both you and they know the truth. You were the one who saw through their mask, the one who no longer feared their power games, and because of that, you are free. And this is the message I want to leave you with today. You didn't just survive, you triumphed, not over them, but over the invisible chains that once bound you. You proved you are strong enough to love yourself, brave enough to say no, resilient enough to choose freedom over control. I know this journey isn't easy. There are days you've questioned if you made the right choice, Nights when you've replayed the good moments and wondered if you were wrong. But remember this: real love never demands that you lose yourself, and walking away from that relationship was an act of courage. So today, I want you to honor yourself. Wherever you are on your healing journey, just beginning, still finding your way, or well on your path, you deserve to feel proud. You've faced what many cannot, and you are moving forward on the road to freedom. If what I've shared today resonates with you, if you know someone who needs to hear these words, please share this video, hit subscribe. Every subscription, every share is a way to spread this strength even further, to reach more people who need to hear that they are not alone, that they can break free, that they can heal. Let your healing journey be more than your own story. Let it be a beacon for those searching for the way out. And always remember, you hold the key. Freedom has always been in your hands. I look forward to continuing this journey with you. Hold on to your faith. Keep walking forward, because the best days, the most beautiful days, are still ahead.